Man, I don't know if this is a good idea, but I'm going to do it anyways. I think we're all being too negative, including me. I think hate sells. I think it gets clicks. And I'm realizing now that I might even be feeding into it a little bit. And it's making me think and wonder if I have to change up my whole style of video. I don't want to keep shining light on things that are going to bring hate if people can't be civil about it. I want everyone to be able to have a positive discussion because if we just argue about it, we're not going to be able to move things forward. I seem to have been able to, in the small time I've been on YouTube, which is about a month now, foster a cool little community that generally gets along. And I'm not asking everybody to get along. I'm just saying be civil. And it's really nice and I've appreciated it. But at the same time, every video I see now and what I realize is negative. You don't see people doing anything positive for gaming as far as videos go, or at least on my feed. We're all complaining and shining our voices on things that are affecting the gaming industry and that need to be talked about. And that's why I get my voice out there and I talk about it. And I want to be able to have positive discussions about things that are affecting the thing we love, video games, negatively. But it seems like all the focus is on the negative and we don't focus enough on the positive. There's so much good happening. We're like literally in the golden age of gaming, but we're focusing on all the negative things because it gets clicks or the hate is, it fosters some kind of feeling and that makes people want to click on things. And nobody makes videos that are positive because the changes that are made for the better, some of the new crazy things that we get are light years beyond what I thought when I was a kid and I was playing 8-bit games I would ever see in my lifetime. And, at the end of the day, we got it really good, but we complain about so much. And this is not at all, do not take this as a video of me saying we can't complain anymore. We need to shine your voices on everything that you think is important. Freedom of speech is one of the most important things in the world. And I really do think you should say things that you believe in loud and proud. But I also think that we should focus more on some of the great things that are happening in the gaming industry instead of always just focus on things that are upsetting us. So what I've thought about doing and what I think I'm going to do now is for all of the times I make a video that is focusing on something that is affecting the game industry negatively, because I do feel like we need to talk about these things, I'm going to try and make a video shining some positive light on all the good things that are happening. Imagine if every news source was like not all negative news and we shine some light on some nice positive stuff for once in a while. Wouldn't it make for like a better landscape of gaming in general? I think it would. If every video you clicked on wasn't just someone angry about this company doing this or this character being that or whatever the case is or whatever the flavor of the month is to be loud and proud and angry at that month, if we shine some light on all the great things, I think we could have like a more positive, good space. And I don't care if it sounds corny. I really, really, really don't. So from now on, we're going to start talking about some of the great things that are happening in games, which isn't that hard to do. We got amazing remakes and remasters that are just as easily complainable about than they are, is that even a word? Just as easily complained about as they are praised, because it's a remaster, it's a remake, it's a copy cookie cutter of something that came before, but someone like me who never played the original Silent Hill 2, I'm getting the most amazing horror experience I've had in a long time right now, recently. And that game deserves to win Game of the Year, even though it's a remake of something that happened 20 years before, I think, in my opinion. So, something that we would normally be negative about, remakes and remasters, we're going to be positive about today. They give people who have never played that game a chance to experience it in the way that you experienced it that originally made you love it, but in a way now that's going to allow them to enjoy it the same way because it's updated, the graphics are better, everything else. I'm sure right now, if I went back and played the old Silent Hill 2, I would not have a good time. Not because of the graphics, just because I'm sure it's not going to hold up the same way that something that looks as spectacular as the new one does, with the incredible sound design and everything else, would feel today. So, something that I would normally complain about, and that I was literally writing a script on earlier for the past couple weeks, that I wasn't sure if I was going to make a video on, was how I'm really sick of remakes and remasters. I'm realizing is a really great thing. My favorite franchise of all time, the best story ever told in games, the great Amy Hennig, who you guys all know for Uncharted and a bunch of other amazing games, but she's the creator of the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver and Legacy of Kain Blood Omen sequels. Now, that, I think, is the best story ever told in games. You can argue about it if you want, that's fine. She created that, and it was the best experience I've ever had still to date in a video game. Now, if you were to go back and try and play that now as someone who was never grown up in that generation or who didn't play the games back in that day, you're not going to enjoy them the same way. But now if you get a remake and a remaster coming in December, you better all get it. That lets people who weren't even born back then experience the game in a way that we experienced it back then without having things to complain and be unhappy about. That's amazing. That is such a great thing. And nobody's even talking about how good that is. We're all shining light negatively on remakes and remasters and how it's all copies of something that came before. But something clicked and made me realize, yeah, there's a reason behind it. It's not just because it's a safe bet and because the studio knows that if they re-release this, it's a safe bet. They spent a bunch of money. They're not going to risk it on a new IP. Sequels sell. It's been proven before. That's why everything is a sequel now. So that allows people to play games that they never played before in the same way that we played them and grew up to love them. And that's a good thing. So that's one positive we can look at right there. All these remakes and remasters, as much as I'm sick of it too, and as much as I'm sick of a company taking all their time and energy and putting it into that instead of making something new, I see why. And it's just because I'm spoiled and I've played everything and I played that game. So, just a remake or a remaster of a game I've already played again, nothing new. But yeah, what about the people who haven't played it before? They're getting a great new experience the same way we did. And now they get to enjoy that and play that, and it revitalizes the franchise. And that's an amazing thing. So let's put a positive spin on something like that was negative before. Okay, next thing. Indie games. I keep saying how we all need to play more indie games because AAA games don't innovate. But why don't they innovate? Look at the budgets. $200 million? How are you supposed to risk that on something new? Risk versus reward, right? And with risk comes great reward. But with risk also comes great failure. And when you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars, you can't afford to fail. So maybe we shouldn't be so harsh on these companies for just doing so many sequels and things that we've shown praise to that we loved before and giving us more of that. Because at the end of the day, who can afford to spend that much money on something that isn't great, already proven, and already known to sell? I don't know. None of the big companies even can. So if you want new innovation and you want to play something different and you want to play something that isn't a genre you've even played before, just go play an indie game. The solution's right there. We don't have to complain about the AAA games. We can just go play an indie game. It's just as easy, So that's kind of all I'm trying to say. Let's just put a positive spin on some of all the negatives we've been doing, and maybe we can go a lot further. Remakes and remasters and complaining about everything being a sequel, I don't think it's a problem anymore. I really don't. We still get new games. We get so many games that are brand new, first time you've ever seen that character or setting games, even in the AAA space all the time. They're not always great, and they're not always even heard of and popular because, once again, they're not a sequel or something that's been proven before. So let's just enjoy it. Let's stop being so negative about it. Let's stop freaking out at the fact that everything's a remake or a remaster, and just be happy for the people who get to play that for the first time. Imagine you have a kid that grew up in this time frame, this time period, okay? This generation. They are not going to enjoy something from the PS2 days if they're used to graphics from today. You take any teenage kid and give them that plays Fortnite and all that, and go try and make them play the old Silent Hill game. They're going to be like, what is this polygonal mess? Right? Probably. But you give them the new one and you put the headphones on, they're going to fucking freak out, right? This is crazy. They get to experience it the same way we did. Remember when you were a kid and you'd look at PS1 graphics when they first came out, or N64 or whatever it was, and you'd be thinking, this looks real. And then you go back and look at games like that now, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe how bad that looks. When I played Metal Gear Solid 1 for the first time, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This looks like I'm really in this setting. And I know that game was actually notorious for not having the greatest graphics, but for me, it just really stuck in the art style and everything. And if you were to go back and play that now, right? Paper faces and stuff, like, it doesn't work. But if they were to remake that and then push it on a new audience, the way they're kind of doing with the MGS3, that's great. Some people are going to experience that franchise for the first time now because of that, you know? So I'm going to stop being so negative about the remakes and the remasters and all of that, because it's a good thing. It's really, really is a good thing. And there's been a lot of hate on everything just being remakes and remasters, me included. I've said my own pieces on why does everything have to be a sequel now, but I don't think it's a bad thing anymore, and I don't think we should complain about it anymore. And this is me putting my good about it out there, because I get it now. I do. And hopefully maybe this video clicks with you, and maybe a negative opinion you had before, you kind of come turn around and think, yeah, it is a good thing too now, because it is. Someone that never got to experience a game before in the way that we experienced it cannot go back and play a game that is decades old and still have the same and get the same enjoyment out of it that we did 90% of the time. So to remake that and give it a fresh face and make it so that they can experience that the same way we did back then now is amazing. And regardless if it's something I'm going to want to play again, or regardless if it's something I want to see, it's a good thing. So that's where I stand with it. That's where I'm leaving it. Hopefully I was able to change a couple opinions and a couple minds about that today. And yeah, I doubt even many people are going to make it this far, because nobody likes the positivity nowadays. But if you did, shout outs to you. Thanks for sticking around. Appreciate you. Okay, I'm out.